How do you analyze a box plot? In other words, how do we get information from the box plot? So for example, two math classes with the same number of students took a final exam. Use the box plot below to answer the following questions. So each of these box plots tells us how the data is spreading, just like the ones we did before. So if you remember when we were looking for the minimum, maximum, those tell us the smallest and the greatest number of the data set, right? So if we look at part A, it says which class had the highest test scores. So that means we want to look at the maximum here. Okay, so the maximum of class A is 87. The maximum of class B is 91. So comparing these two, which one has the higher number? Well, it's going to be class B because it has a greater maximum number. Part B, which class had a higher median test score? Okay, so we're looking for a higher median. So where do we find a median? Well, it's that line down the middle of each box plot. So class A, that is 88. And for class B, that's 85. So the higher one would be then class A. Part C, which class had a smaller range of test scores? So the smaller range means a range is the distance between the maximum and the minimum. Okay, so the distance between them. So we can find out the range by, I think there are two ways. One is just to look at it to see which graph has a longer distance between the minimum and the maximum. Okay, so visually in here, it's obvious that class B has a higher range. So because the distance from the minimum point to the maximum point is longer for class B. So we can, oh, actually, sorry, the question is actually asking for a smaller range. So then the answer would be the opposite, class A, because it's shorter, right? Now, if you're not sure, if they're just missing by a little bit and it's not obvious, you can always write out the numbers and figure it out, right? So for class A, the minimum is 78. I'm sorry, 73, right? And I know that because if I were, oh, actually it's 74, sorry, should have done that. Because I'm reading the number line, right? See which number it's lining up to. Okay, so for class B, it's 678, so that's 68, right? For the minimum number. So what I want to do is to figure out a range for both of them and then compare. So the range for class A is the distance between 74 and 87, which is just the subtraction between the two numbers, right? So that is going to be that's 13. Okay, and then the range for class B is 91 minus 68, and that's 23. So we can see that the smaller one was 13. So we were right. Visually, it was shorter anyway, right? Okay, so now for this guy right here, interquartile range. What it is the distance between the two ends of the box, because that's the lower quartile. So it's the distance between the lower quartile and the upper quartile. Okay, so you just subtract those two numbers. Okay, so visually, again, if we're looking for a larger interquartile range, or we call it IQR, then we're looking for a longer box, right? So visually, we can see that the box for class B is longer, right? Now, if we're not sure, because sometimes the plot is very close and you can't tell, then we will find the numbers and actually do the subtraction. So for class A, lower quartile is 77 and upper quartile was right at 85. So that means the interquartile range is 85 minus 77. Okay, so 85 minus 77 is 8. And for class B, lower quartile is 73, upper quartile is 678, so 88. So for class B is 88 minus 73, which is 15. So 15 is indeed larger than 8, right? So that would give us a larger interquartile range. So class B has a higher IQR.